I have a really interesting journey, I think, particularly my relationship with creativity. For the longest time, I didn't really consider myself to be a creative, and now I do something very different to what I did initially, as you will soon hear. And yeah, this is really a talk exploring how I've sort of reshaped the way that I view creativity and how it's taken on a whole new meaning in my life. To begin, I was encouraged to speak a little bit about joy and putting joy out into the world. And for me, that's what creativity really is. And it would be really hard for me to not start with the thing that initiated this whole journey, which was dance. So, yes, I was much cuter then. Yeah, so I started dancing when I was 9 years old in California. And I just immediately took to how it made me feel. I felt so free and excited. And I quickly learned that I actually wasn't the only one that was feeling these things. When I danced, for whatever reason, I actually put smiles on other people's faces too. And I was able to, if only for a moment, make their lives better and to hopefully have an impact outside of just prancing around. Over time, I was very fortunate and got more opportunities to dance and to put that joy out into the world. There at the top, you can see that was on So You Think You Can Dance. I danced with Cirque du Soleil. And eventually, I was lucky enough to go to the Royal Ballet School in London, where I... yeah, see if you can find me. I'm in that picture somewhere. Yeah, I studied there for 3 years, and then I was incredibly lucky also to get a job at the Houston Ballet, where I danced professionally for 5 years. Thanks. And throughout all this time, I felt just so incredibly lucky to have this opportunity every single day to go out and basically just spread my love of life and my joy with the world. That's really what dance was to me. And so at Houston Ballet, we went around the world, we went around the US, and I was able to engage with these audiences and hopefully put a smile on all of their faces. But then my journey took a bit of a turn. Suddenly, I wasn't able to dance at all. It was quite a nice day. It was in March, and we were all called into the studio. My director came in and basically told us the world premiere, actually, that we were meant to do that evening, brand new to the entire world, wouldn't be happening. We would all have to pack up, go home. The theaters were shut indefinitely. Any guesses what I'm talking to?
They know snap.
Yeah, I think we have all had a similar experience. But yeah, so we, at Houston Ballet, we were shut down for about 1.5 years. And so this sort of vehicle, this medium that I had for spreading my joy and basically my entire identity was gone. It was empty theaters and just, nothing. What could I do? I was lost. I had no idea. I wallowed for a long time, but then I figured I'd probably be best suited in trying to do something. So I started learning. I went back to school, I got a degree, and as I started exploring a bunch more topics and learning more about the world, suffice it to say, there are incredibly large problems in the world. There is so much need out there. And I was very fortunate in that I grew up in very lovely circumstances. I had a great upbringing, and I was incredibly fortunate, as you saw, to have this trajectory and to live in this bubble where I had all the most amazing opportunities. But as I started learning, I realized that that's not true for the majority of people. And I felt this urge. Now I realized I was actually meant to ask this at the beginning of the presentation, but there's no time like the present. So if I may ask a quick question, how many of you in here have ever felt that deep urge to create something in the world? Just show of hands. No surprise there. Great. Okay, slightly different question. How many of you have ever felt a desire when you've maybe seen someone in need to help? Yeah, I don't think that's a coincidence. I personally believe that the urge to create and the urge to give stem from the same foundational human drive for meaning, for connection, and for change and agency. And that was ultimately what led me to get involved in philanthropy, one of the many ways that we can have an impact in the world. I started sort of giving very small amounts, giving time, volunteering, things like that. And like any other thing that is nice, it becomes addicting and you want to do more. How can I do more? How can I explore more? And then I learned this really surprising fact that where you give actually arguably matters more than how much you give. So I don't know how much you know about ballet dancer salaries, but we're not raking in the dough. And so I knew, okay, if I want to have as much impact as I can, I want to be more strategic with my giving. But like any recovering overachiever, as was mentioned earlier, like I said, I always want more. How can I do more? How can I achieve more scale? There's so much need in the world. How can I try and do more? I realized that I would probably need to achieve greater scale, and eventually I concluded that I would have to take a leap, pun intended. So that's what drove me to actually leave my career at the Houston Ballet as a professional dancer to start my first nonprofit organization to help influential artists leverage their platforms to augment the reach of the most impactful charities in the world. This was a very challenging experience. I don't know if there are any entrepreneurs in the room, but that is a whole other beast. But it was incredibly meaningful to me to be able to sort of transform this urge to try and create impact in the world from one sort of medium to another. Now I do something similar, and I advise major donors on how to create the most meaning and social impact with their philanthropy. So 3 question marks, very eerie. But really, this happens to me all the time, where for the longest time I couldn't piece together like how this trajectory made sense. And when I talk to people and they find out I was a professional ballet dancer, they hear my whole story, they're like, why are you working on global systems change? Where's the bridge? What's the leap? And for the longest time, identity crisis, I had no idea. Then, as I started thinking a little bit more broadly about creativity as we've defined it, I realized that I'm not doing something different today. I'm still ultimately just trying to share my joy and my love of life, my love of others. And so I'm not doing anything different. I'm actually doing, in essence, the very same thing. So I said earlier, I asked those questions earlier because I actually think that, say, Picasso and Mother Teresa were actually sort of guided by similar foundational drives. The drive to connect, the drive to impact, the drive to create change in the world. I think that creativity and creation is ultimately just looking at the world and seeing an opportunity and saying, oh, I think it should be this way. A painter, as you see here, sees a blank canvas and in their mind sees what it could be. A philanthropist, similarly, looks at a community and sees a need and says, this should be different. I can step in here and make that change as well. So ultimately, I think that both of these things stem from that same drive, that agency. And that's one of the things that I really like to encourage all of you to explore today. And I'm not the first one, actually. It was really, really cool to see some of the other speakers touch on a lot of the same things that I feel like I wanted to touch on in my talk. Like, I want to encourage all of you to really just explore what that thing is in you, or things, very broadly construed, that feed you with joy, that allow you to spread that joy out into the world. So in fact, actually, can any of you all think about what that is for each of you? And you don't have to share it. Just think of it right now. All right, we got it? All right, last parting word. Now go and do it. Thank you.